In this lecture, you will learn how to organize your code. You've been told earlier it's better to separate data from the HTML. An example is when you work on your code and at the same time the designer works on the HTML, you can see it's better to have two different files, one for the code and another for the design. So let's do that. We're going to take the HTML code here and put it in a new file. We're going to name it HTML page.php. Okay, and now here we're going to include the file, include HTML page.php. Let's see. Okay, we have errors here. Why is there an error? So we can see on line 10 here we have invalid arguments. This error says that titles is unknown. Why? Because here you are including the code. The code is pasted, so it's like having this here. It's like that. So here we are using titles which is not defined yet. It is defined after. So we need titles to be defined before. So here you do not include HTML page here, but at the end. And if we refresh, it's okay. So remember, include takes the code of the file and paste it where the include instruction is. Now let's see another instruction related to file including. You have also the instruction require. So what's the difference between them? If we include a missing file like HTML page.php, we have a warning here. But a warning does not stop the script. For example, if here I echo hi everybody, we have the warning, but the message display. But if we require a missing file, we have a fatal error and the script stops and we can't see the hi everybody. The script stops here. So by default, I recommend you to use require, because when you require a file, it must exist. And in certain special cases, we're going to use include. So to organize your code, you can use files, but you can use also functions. Until now, you used PHP functions, but you can create yours. For example, here, the array titles contains data, but usually data are fetched from a database. So now we're not using a database, but in your code, you're gonna pretend that the data are from a database. So how do you do it? Let's create a function, get articles, and here we're going to put the code defined here. And here you return the array. And here we declare the variable titles used here by calling the function. The name of the variable here must not necessarily be the same as here, because here we have a block code where the variable live and die. That's to say, outside the function, all the variables declared here are unusable. For example, here, if I want to echo $vol, undefined variable, because vol is defined inside the function. So here I can rename this variable to, for example, articles. I replace here and here. So articles is different from titles, and it's still working. No, it's not working. So you had here the missing H. Okay, so here we have undefined variable because title here is used. So in fact, we don't need this example. We just want to display the list. So you created a function which returns articles, which is supposed to be the database. So this function, you're gonna put it in another file. And you're gonna call him database. And here you require the database file in order to include the function. It still works. Now you're going to create another function in order to display the HTML, because you are including the HTML by copying the content of this file. So another way is to create a function here, PHP function display HTML page, and you give the titles, and as previously, you're going to mix HTML and PHP. So here we open the function, but we need to close to display the HTML. Here we open again to display the dynamic data, and here you open again to close the function here, and that's it. So here we can move upward the require. We have nothing, but we have no errors. And here we're going to display the HTML page using the function, and we give to the function the data. The same. So you organized your code by file. You created 2 more files, and by logic, one file is dedicated to HTML and another one for the database. Then you can see 3 ports: a file to manage the view, the HTML, a file to manage the data, the database, and a file to control everything. It's index.php. You have then separated responsibilities. In the index file, you don't care how the data are managed in the file database.php. You just know you get an array with the function getArticles. And in the HTML page.php, you also don't care about how the data are displayed. Responsibilities separation is another bulletproof programming principle, and you will use this structure throughout the project. That's all. See you in the next lecture.